Hey everyone, me again. Happy Thursday, May 14th, 2020. So let's kick off our morning with some good number talk. So yesterday was Work It Out Wednesday. So here are the answers to our addition and subtraction equations. So here in our units, remember we were practicing our addition facts with the sevens family. Then in the tens, we were practicing addition using a material or abstractly, depending on where you are. And over here in the hundreds, we were practicing subtraction, again, either with materials or using it abstractly. So go ahead, pause the video, check your answers, circle any that were incorrect, and go ahead and figure out where you went wrong, just like we do in the classroom. And then for today, we have some more true-false equations. So we did this a couple weeks ago, and I saw a lot of you did this work at home because your parents sent it to me. And so for these, remember, you're going to have an equation. 10 plus 5 equals 15. Well, does 10 plus 5 equal 15? If you know that as a fact, you know it's true. If you are not sure, you could do the addition using a material. You could check it on the finger chart, whatever you need to do. But figure out, is this equation true? So 10 plus 5, that does equal 15. So this one is true. And I just recorded a T for true. And then you'll go through, and when you do find false equations, you would put an F for false. And as you get into the tens and hundreds, you will notice that there are some operations on both sides of the equal sign sometimes. So for this one, you'd have to subtract 113 minus 108 and figure out what that answer is and see if it equals the answer to the equation 3 plus 2. So these ones are more involved. There's more steps. Still same thing though. If it's true, you'll put a T. False, you'll put an F. And then over here in the hundreds column, you'll notice we don't have an equal sign in our equation. Instead, we have less than or greater than. And remember, that symbol, whichever direction it is pointing, is signifying the larger number. So remember, if you think of this as like an alligator or crocodile mouth, it wants to eat the larger animal. It wants the bigger dinner, the bigger piece of cake. And so the symbol faces the larger side of the equation. So go ahead, do your Thursday number talk and see what you come up with. Please share that with me when you get a chance. And I'm happy to review those symbols or how to set up those equations. You just have to let me know that you need assistance, and I'll call you. We can Zoom, we can do it on the whiteboard, and make sure we're on the same page. Getting back to the value of determination. Yesterday, we talked about our final 3 story elements. We talked about the plot, and our plot, remember, has a beginning, middle, and end. So I went ahead and filled in my chart. I just I just did not draw my pictures because you've seen my art. It's not the greatest. So at the beginning, Helen Keller lost her ability to see, hear, and speak. We know that happened in the beginning of the story, and the rest of the story is based on what happened at the beginning. You might have something similar, might have something slightly different, but remember that in the beginning it's at the opening, it's where the story starts. In the middle, Anne Sullivan comes to teach Helen how to experience the world and communicate. So in my opinion, that was the middle part of our plot, of our story, is when Helen is working with Anne Sullivan in order to learn these things we take for granted. How to see, how to touch, how to experience the world, how to learn the names of things. How can you learn the name of something when you can't see it and you cannot hear? Helen Keller, individuals who also are deaf or blind or both, they need to learn to experience the world in a different way. And Anne Sullivan came to teach her to experience by touch. Because our 5 senses, What are our five senses? Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. We have five. Helen Keller did not have sight or hearing. She only had the sense of smell, taste, and touch. And it's pretty hard to smell a word. It's pretty hard to taste a word. But she could touch items. Like when Anne Sullivan put her hand under a faucet and Helen felt water going through her fingers into her palm. She felt it. She experienced wetness. She experienced liquid finding the lowest point. And then Anne Sullivan took her hand and spelled water in her palm. W-A-T-E-R. And Helen learned to experience and name things by touch. And that was the bulk of the middle of our story. And that was not easy. Remember how Helen Keller was at the beginning. She had been very spoiled. Her parents probably did many of the things, if not all of the things, for her because it was difficult. And her parents probably didn't have experience knowing how to teach someone who can't experience the world the way they do. And Sullivan came in because she was an expert. And she was able to help very slowly to learn how to do these things and ultimately to communicate. And then I said, in the end, Helen Keller became famous as someone who worked hard and overcame difficulty. Even today, we did the math yesterday, it was 140 years ago Helen Keller was born. 140 years. That is multiple lifetimes. But we are still talking about her today in the year 2020 because she encountered a problem and she pushed and tried and was determined, and she overcame and learned how to communicate and experience the world. And she became famous. As the story mentioned, kings wanted to meet her, queens wanted to meet her, presidents. She received many awards. She was asked to speak to individuals so that her determination, her quality of greatness could be demonstrated, could show others what is possible. Helen Keller was given a difficult situation, very difficult. And she could have just given up. She could have said, life is hard. I'm not going to learn how to do this. It's not fair. I'm just going to be angry and I'm not going to obey and I'm going to be mad at the world. But that wouldn't be a happy life. Eventually, anger wears on you. It breaks you down. Negativity makes more negativity. And that's how Helen Keller experienced the world at first. But then as she overcame and started to learn, she took that glass that seemed half full, half empty, and she started to change the way she looked at it. She looked at it as half full, and she grew to have a positive outlook, a positive mindset. And that's the reason that we still talk about her today. And when we talked about her plot there, we kind of talked about the conflict a little bit. That problem, Helen Keller couldn't see, couldn't hear, and thus she couldn't speak. So that was the problem. And so our characters, main character Helen, support characters Mom, Dad, Miss Fuller, the principal at the school for the deaf, and Anne Sullivan, they all worked together to try to overcome, to resolve that conflict. And the resolution was Helen Keller learning how to touch and learn by touching, learn with her hands, learn how to speak, learn what names of things were, etc. And so that was the conflict and that was the resolution. Now stories, as well as science, as well as life, often have causes and they have effects. Cause, something that happens which makes something else happen. It's like when you roll a ball down a hill, when it encounters, some bowling pins, it hits them and they fall. So the cause is rolling the ball down the hill. The effect is the pins fell down. A good example, the squirrel gathers nuts throughout the summer and the fall. And and so the squirrel has nuts to eat in the winter. Cause, the squirrel gathers nuts in the spring, summer, and fall. Effect, the squirrel is able to eat. All right, so I have two cause and effects for you. Number one, blank caused Helen to lose her ability to see and hear. So we have the effect. Something caused Helen to lose her ability to see and hear. What was the cause of that effect? If you don't recall, you can go back to Monday, and at minute 2, you can re-listen to the story or look at it and recall what caused that effect. And then here, Helen was determined to learn. She was determined to learn, and in the end, she blank. The cause, Helen was determined to learn, and what did that affect in the end? We'll review those tomorrow, and let's wrap with our Who Am I? So yesterday we learned about a large and powerful cat. It lives in Africa and Asia. It has tawny brown skin. The males of the family have a long, beautiful mane. This animal ranges over plains, deserts, and hills, sleeping during the day and hunting at night. This animal is the symbol of Great Britain and has been called the king of the jungle. If you identified that animal as a lion or a lioness, you were correct. Now, today, very tricky. I am similar to a horse, and my coat is beautifully striped. I live in Africa. I am a very fast runner. My feet have hooves, which are kind of like strong, enormous toenails. Do you know my name? Tune in tomorrow for that. Talk about these causes and effects, review our number talk, and we'll kick off Friday. Have a great Thursday. You can do this. Work hard, be happy, enjoy your family. It's a beautiful day today. Get outside.